A brother's anger leads to history's first murder, and its ripples still affect us today. We're diving deep into Genesis chapter 4, where pride, sacrifice, and consequences collide in ways that might surprise you. Today, we're exploring 12 fascinating themes that emerge from this ancient text, uncovering insights about human nature, divine justice, and practical wisdom for our modern lives. And joining me is our biblical narrative expert. Let's start with something intriguing, Eve's declaration about Cain's birth. What's significant about her statement?
You know, it's fascinating. Eve says, "I have acquired a man from the Ore." There's this sense of divine involvement, yet we see Cain later following in Adam's footsteps as a tiller of the ground.
Interesting contrast with Abel, who becomes a shepherd. Is there symbolism there?
Absolutely. Abel as a shepherd actually prefigures Christ, who would later be known as the Good Shepherd. This contrast becomes crucial in understanding their offerings.
Speaking of offerings, what exactly happened there? Why was Abel's accepted but Cain's wasn't?
Well, the text tells us Abel brought the firstborn of his flock and their fat, essentially his best. Cain just brought an offering of his crops. The difference wasn't in the type, but the heart behind it.
Ah, so it's about the attitude, not just the action?
Exactly. And this leads to a crucial moment where God warns Cain about sin lying at the door. It's a powerful image of pride ready to pounce.
That's such a vivid metaphor. Sin lying at the door, it's like a predator waiting to strike.
And what's particularly striking is how this pride manifests, first as spiritual murder through anger, then physical murder. Jesus later echoed this when teaching about anger being the root of murder.
Wait, so you're saying there's a progression here?
Yes, and it's crucial to understand. Cain's act wasn't spontaneous. He contemplated it, waited until they were alone in the field. Compare this to Christ, who would later die publicly on the cross.
That's a powerful contrast. And then there's God's response, asking Cain about Abel's whereabouts.
Right, and Cain's response, "Am I my brother's keeper?" shows his complete rejection of responsibility. It's the opposite of Christ, who literally became our keeper, our kinsman redeemer.
You mentioned something earlier about the ground being cursed. Can you elaborate on that?
This is fascinating. While the ground was cursed after Adam's sin, it was Abel's blood that brought a deeper curse. The earth literally drank his blood.
And there's a parallel with Christ's blood, isn't there?
Exactly. While Abel's blood brought a curse, Christ's blood lifts the curse. He asks us to symbolically drink his blood, representing the power to overcome our selfish nature.
Let's talk about Cain's reaction to his punishment. He says it's greater than he can bear.
Yes, and the contrast with Christ is striking. Jesus bore unimaginable punishment without complaint, while Cain, the guilty party, complained about his consequences.
But God still showed mercy, right? With the mark of protection?
Indeed, though it's interesting, it was a mark of fear, not love. Protection through the threat of sevenfold vengeance versus Christ's teaching of 70 times 7 forgiveness.
That's a fascinating distinction. And then Cain goes off and builds a city?
Yes, becoming a city dweller while God's people lived in the holy mountain. It represents a physical and spiritual separation from God's presence.
And this leads to some interesting developments in his family line.
Right, we see the introduction of polygamy with Lamech's 2 wives, and more violence. It's like watching pride's ripple effect through generations.
That's pretty sobering. How does this connect to salvation?
Well, we see how pride can lead people away from God's character of humility. It's a pattern that continues today. We either embrace humility or feed our pride.
Then we have Seth entering the picture. What's significant about him?
Seth means appointed one. He represents a new beginning after Abel's death. His line maintains a connection with God, while Cain's line drifts further away.
And his son's name, Enosh, that has special meaning too, right?
Yes, Enosh means being human, and it marks a significant shift. After him, God no longer appears face-to-face with humans. Prayer becomes the new form of communication.
That's quite a transition. It really shows how these choices affected humanity's relationship with God.
Exactly. And it's worth noting that this is also when false worship begins. People start calling on other gods, not just the true God.
So what can we learn from all this today? How does this ancient story apply to modern life?
The core themes are still incredibly relevant. How pride can poison relationships. The importance of genuine worship versus going through the motions.
And the whole brother's keeper concept, that seems especially pertinent.
Absolutely. It challenges us to consider our responsibility to others, especially in a world that often promotes individualism over community.
You know, it's interesting how this story shows the first instance of someone trying to dodge responsibility with clever words.
Yes, Cain's response, "Am I my brother's keeper?" is really the first recorded attempt at deflection in human history.
And we're still using similar tactics today, aren't we?
Exactly. The patterns of pride, deflection, and attempting to hide from consequences, they're all still very much part of human nature.
Let's talk about the technological developments in Cain's line, the first mention of music and metalworking.
It's fascinating. Jubal becomes the father of musicians, and Tubal-Cain develops metallurgy. Progress isn't inherently bad, but it's interesting that these developments come from the line that's moving away from God.
Almost like they're trying to create their own paradise?
Precisely. It's human achievement attempting to fill the void left by broken relationship with God.
That's a pretty relevant observation for today's tech-focused world.
And it raises important questions about how we use our innovations. Are they bringing us closer to or further from our spiritual purpose?
Let's circle back to the offerings. What can we learn from the different approaches of Cain and Abel?
The key difference wasn't in what they brought, but in their hearts. Abel brought his best, while Cain just brought something. It's about the spirit of worship.
So it's not about the external act, but the internal attitude?
Exactly. And this principle applies to all aspects of our spiritual life. It's not just what we do, but why and how we do it.
That's a powerful lesson. Any final thoughts on this chapter?
What strikes me most is how this story shows the long-term consequences of our choices. One act of pride led to generations of impact.
And yet there's hope in the story too, right?
Absolutely. Even after such tragedy, God provides a new beginning through Seth. It shows that no matter how far we've fallen, there's always a path back.
That's really the heart of it, isn't it? The contrast between pride's destruction and humility's restoration.
Yes, and it's a choice we all face daily. Will we follow Cain's path of pride or choose the humility that leads to true relationship with God?
You know, for a story that's thousands of years old, it feels remarkably relevant to modern life.
That's because it deals with fundamental human nature. Pride, jealousy, responsibility, consequences. These haven't changed.
And neither has the solution, humility and genuine worship.
Exactly. Whether it's ancient sacrifices or modern worship, the principle remains: God looks at the heart.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, every choice we make either feeds our pride or cultivates humility.
And like Cain, we all stand at that door where sin lies waiting. The question is, will we master it or let it master us?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Genesis 4. Until next time, keep choosing the path of humility.